my friends, let's get cozy. I don't know about you, but I am so guilty of spending way too long scrolling on my phone every day and then subsequently complaining that I'm feeling drained, that my cup is empty, that I'm not getting enough me time. So recently I have been trying to really cultivate cozy hobbies to replace my scrolling, and I thought that today I would share them with you. The first one I have to recommend is something that's really new to me, and it's junk journaling. I don't know if I've just been living under a rock, but if you, like me, had not heard of this previously, it's basically like chaos scrapbooking. Basically, you take a notebook, any notebook, and in it you save all of your like physical media from things. So like ticket stubs, or if you get like art in a package you ordered, or handwritten notes, grocery lists, like it can literally be anything. And the beauty of this is that it can be as aesthetic or not aesthetic as you want it to be. Some people do like washi tape and stickers and they like actually write in it. And some people purely just like glue the junk into it. And it's so freeing because it's creativity with no bounds. There's no pressure because it's a very low cost hobby, especially if you're not doing all the like fancy stickers and stuff. All you need is a journal and a glue stick. It's also just a really fun way to preserve memories, and I love going back and looking through them. I feel like I get that romanticizing my life vibe when I can see at a glance all of the fun things that I've gone and done or received love from family and friends. And it's one of those things that's easy to just like pick up and put down. Highly recommend junk journaling. The second one that I've tried recently is Blackout Poetry, and I feel like this was huge on Tumblr, like circa 2012, and I am petitioning to bring it back because it's so much fun. Basically, you just take any piece of print media you have. It could be like a newspaper or an advertisement, or I like to use magazines, or some people will even get like a dedicated book, just like thrift a cheap book and use that for all of their Blackout poetry. And you just literally take a Sharpie and cover up all the words that you don't want included in your poem, and the words that you're left with can like tell a story or spell something out. I think this is really fun because I don't go into it with like a certain theme in mind. I just see what words are on the page and let them inspire me. And I feel like I end up with just all kinds of different subject matter. It's cheap and easy and quick. I don't know. I think we can bring back more of the like cringe Tumblr era things that we used to do. It's kind of nostalgic in that way. Another thing that I love to do is go thrifting or go to estate sales. I do a lot of thrifting on this channel, and I get questions all the time about like, how do you find good stuff at your thrift stores? There's never anything good at my stores. And to that, I would say try estate sailing. Specifically, if you can ID like older neighborhoods and like look in more affluent areas, you can find some really good antique treasures. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace, or there are like dedicated estate sale websites, and they'll usually give a little blurb of like what's being sold and kind of like the theme. So some things that I look for are like old world as a keyword, scrubbed pine as a keyword, anything that mentions that the resident is or was a traveler. I love seeing all that kind of stuff. And even if you don't buy anything, it's so fun to go and look at like all the very unique things that people collect through their lives. Or you could just go to Goodwill or Value Village or Savers or whatever you have by you. I will say that I tend to have better luck at like mom and pop thrift stores. So anything that I can find that's like connected to like a charity or like even to a church or something like that, where you go in and it's like disorganized and cluttered and it looks a little bit scary, that's a good thrift store. That's where you're gonna find the treasures. Another one that I've really been enjoying recently is cozy gaming. And if you heard that and immediately thought, oh, video games aren't for me, that's what I thought too, until I found cozy gaming. Video games have come so far. It's no longer just like the first person pew pew game. There's a whole genre of games that are literally just meant to be relaxing and cozy and aesthetic and cute, and I love them. The most obvious ones are Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley in particular, you don't even have to have like a gaming console for. You can do it on your phone. I have put hundreds of hours into that game. It's like a pixel art farming and life sim. Oh, I love it so much. But if you're just starting out with cozy games and you're intimidated by like a behemoth like that one that has like so many hours of gameplay, I would recommend trying a cute short little game like a short hike, or one that I love is Mail Time. Mail Time has the cutest art. You can customize your little character, and then you're just like running around as a tiny person in this like forest, and there are all of these woodland creatures, and you have to deliver mail between them, and you like follow the story as you're delivering these letters and gifts, and it's very cute. cute. It's one of those ones you can beat in a couple hours, if not less. There's nothing like mechanically difficult about it. There's no combat. It's a great way to relax. An alternative to Stardew Valley that I really like is Fields of Mystria. This one came out recently and it's like Sailor Moon coded Stardew Valley with a lot of quality of life upgrades. I love the romanceable NPCs. Something else I've been playing recently is Hello Kitty Island Adventure, and my kids have actually been playing this with me. It's like Rowan's first exposure to video games, and it's fun because it's kind of like a cross between Animal Crossing and Legend of Zelda, where you're like on a farm and you can like decorate little houses and stuff, but also there are like puzzles and like temple-ish kind of things. I'll give Rowan one Joy-Con and I'll do one Joy-Con, and it's a little bit patience testing sometimes because he's like learning the controls, but it's very cute. If I'm feeling like I need a solo game session though, something that he has been loving recently is IXL. IXL is partnering with me on today's video, and they are an online learning platform designed to help every student reach their academic potential. Rowan has been showing a lot of interest in reading recently. I was not planning on starting any kind of like reading lessons with him this early, but he just started like reading street signs all of a sudden, and he's so curious, he wants to learn more, but I didn't know where to start. I was very unprepared. So we've been trying out IXL and he loves it. We've personally been doing the language arts lessons, but they also have math, science, social studies, and it goes from ages pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. He legitimately thinks he's playing a video game when he's on it, and I love that it's designed for both audio and visual learners. So even though he can't necessarily read everything on the screen, there are audio prompts and he gets feedback as he's doing the lessons in the form of like green check marks for positive reinforcement when he gets something right, or if he misses a question, it gives him really clear explanations to help him correct his mistake.
This is the letter F, fox.
It's available on the web or as an app for on-the-go learning, and it's one of the most trusted learning programs in the world. 1 in 4 US students uses it, and it's used in over 90 of the top US school districts. If you think IXL might be a fit for your child, you can go to the link down in my description and get 25% off of monthly or annual subscriptions. One of my all-time favorite cozy hobbies is agritourism. And agritourism is basically just a fancy way to say picking fruits, vegetables, and flowers. But this is my favorite way to romanticize my life. I do it a lot in like late spring, summer, early fall. Things like apple picking, pumpkin picking, you pick flower farms, berry picking, peaches if you live in somewhere warmer than I do. I wish we could pick peaches. I try to do this at least once a quarter, and it does require a little bit more planning, but I love that it's something that I can do with my kids. It helps me get outside, and I always have like a little themed outfit for anything that we go and do. And then if we're picking fruit, I bring it home afterwards and I turn it into jam, which brings me right into my next hobby recommendation, which is canning and preserving and pickling. If you want to feel like Little House on the Prairie, it is so fun. It's also really easy to do. I haven't personally done like pressure canning. I just do it in like the hot water bath, and I spent I think probably 3 hours making jam this summer, and we have eaten it all year long. The feeling I get when I'm eating a piece of homemade sourdough with homemade jam on top that I picked myself is just supreme. It is so much fun. Also in the kitchen, baking is always going to be one of my favorite hobbies. If you're new to baking, I would recommend starting with like cookies and scones. They're very simple recipes, easy to make. You don't have to deal with like any kind of proofing time, which can be a little bit finicky. If you want to take this up a step, go to a thrift store or an estate sale like we talked about and thrift a vintage cookbook and then make a recipe out of it. Something about having that like physical cookbook on a little cookbook stand rather than just like on your phone on Pinterest makes it so much more romantic and so much more fun. And then at the end, you get to eat a little sweet treat. So it's like win, 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 win. A surprise to no one. I also have to recommend reading as a hobby. And I specifically wanted to give you some cozy, easy to read recommendations. The first one is this book. It's called Legends and Lattes. And I don't know why it took me so long to read this, but I read it on the plane to New York. Finished the whole thing in one plane ride, so it's a very easy read. And it's about a half-orc who retires from her adventuring party to start a cafe and like bring coffee to this small adventuring town. And all the friends that she meets along the way. It's very cute and heartwarming. I definitely found myself craving a cup of coffee when I was reading this. I did order some decaf on the plane because I was like, it was so sensory rich. The next one I have to recommend is my own debut novel. It's called The Crown Prophecy, and it is a cozy romantasy with a lot of baking and a little bit of spice. I'm horrible about talking about my own work. I always get so nervous. I'm just gonna read you the back. Mundane baker Quinn Perry wasn't born with a gift. unless you count her skills with a pastry bag. When she's hired into the kitchen of the magic-wielding royal family, she thinks the most challenging part of her new routine will be hiding her position from her magic-hating mother. She certainly doesn't expect to get entangled in the affairs of the Crown Prince. Then Prince Evander surprises her. Instead of the selfish, arrogant royal she expected, he's witty and kind and shares her love of reading. Quinn finds herself more drawn to him than she should be, especially considering he has a duty to preserve the magic of the kingdom by marrying one of the wielders competing for his hand. But the contest is masking a darker truth, and the duo finds themselves working together to decipher a cryptic prophecy that might be their only chance of saving the kingdom. Battling a tidal wave of forbidden feelings, Quinn and Evander are left to reckon with the possibility that the mystery that binds them may also be the ruin of everything they love. If you like banter in a romance, if you like found family, if you like loath to love, I hope you'll consider picking this up. It's my baby. I love it. It's got cozy cottagecore vibes, but also a bit of adventure and tension. And if spice isn't for you, I do have a whole guide on the website, which is just thecrownprophecy.com, of which passages to skip to just avoid that entirely. Another good one for people who don't like spice is this. It's Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and it is a cottagecore dream. The main character is like this very princessy type girl with pink hair. There are scenes of like being in a magical town square with tiny dragons breathing fire to cook street food. Like, it's just so cute. I do want to do a whole video on like cozy book recommendations, but that's not what this video is. So I'll leave it there for now. Let me know if you want more recs in the comments and I'd be happy to respond to like your personal tastes. I also want to talk a bit about physical art because I feel like this is one of the best hobbies that people are intimidated by, but there are so many different varieties that you can try. One of my favorite ones that's just like a brain off activity is paint by numbers. I actually have a canvas that just lives by our kitchen table, and the little paints and the paintbrush and the glass of water are always there. So anytime I have the urge to pick up my phone and start scrolling, I can just go and do like one or two little shapes or more if I want, but it's very easy to pick up and put down. Recently, I've also been really liking doing like smaller versions like this. This was $7 at Michael's with the frame, and it also has a magnet on the back so you can like put it on your fridge for a cute little fridge gallery. I like that you can do these in one sitting. Just get like a cup of tea or a glass of wine and spend an hour and a half painting. You end up with a cute little end product. There's really not a way to mess it up. And I like to pair this with a podcast. So all of these like physical art things, I like to have a podcast so my brain is also occupied. If you're not neurodivergent, you might not need the podcast, but that's personally how it's the most relaxing for me. If painting isn't for you, you could try textile arts, and I have a few recommendations in this department. The first one being embroidery. Embroidery is so easy. I did this one forever ago, and it just lives in the background here. You could get a kit with instructions and all the thread and everything if that makes it feel less intimidating to you, but you can absolutely also just pick up a piece of fabric, an embroidery hoop, some floss, and a needle and just like go at it, and it's gonna look okay no matter what you do. You could also try out knitting or crocheting. This one I do recommend getting a kit for your first time because it is a little bit more complicated to learn all the different like stitches and stuff. But this was my very first ever knitting project. He's a little frog. This was so fun to do, and now he has like little sweaters and stuff that I can dress him up in. You could absolutely make clothes and things, but I find this a little bit more whimsical. I will say knitting is a little bit more complicated than crocheting in my opinion. Crocheting is pretty easy. I recently made this blueberry purse that I'm obsessed with. It only took me a couple of hours and I think it's so cute. Something about how tactile it is, just like having the yarn and the needle or hook in your hand and like watching it get bigger in front of you is so satisfying and relaxing. But if yarn is too intimidating, you could also try sewing. Sewing is so much fun, especially if you're like a fashion girly and you either want to get away from fast fashion or you just have like a very specific piece in your head that you want to wear and you can't find it anywhere. There's a huge range of skill levels, so you can start out with things that are very, very simple, and then as you learn more skills like buttons and zippers, you can graduate to harder projects. I personally started just making some little stuffed animals for my kids and a little bonnet for Juniper because it didn't have any of those like fasteners or anything like that that intimidated me. If you're not a fashion girly, try quilting. If you want a long-term project that's gonna take you weeks, if not months, making a quilt is so much fun and it's so uniquely cozy, especially in fall or winter. I made this one and I personally like to machine piece the quilt blocks, but then hand stitch all of this. I don't know, just something about being in front of the fire, like listening to an audiobook or watching TV and doing all the hand quilting was so stinking cozy. And this is another one that's like a lot of work, but fairly easy unless you're doing a super complicated pattern. Another thing I've been really into this year is pottery. I always thought that you had to have access to a wheel to make cool pottery, but then I took a class at my local community center and learned how to hand build pieces. And I learned that you can make really professional, nice looking pieces just by hand building and like slab building. For example, at a recent girls' night, I made this little Hobbit mug. I'll pop a picture on the screen here. And I don't think that you could even tell if you didn't know right out the gate that it wasn't made on a wheel. To make it food safe, I get it fired at the local pottery studio, and then I do the glazes, which is like a whole other hobby in itself. Like painting the little patterns on is so much fun. And then get it fired again. But if you don't have access to a pottery studio by you could absolutely just do like air dry clay and do things like trinket dishes and candle holders and all that kind of stuff. In the spring and summer, my pride and joy is my garden. Gardening is the coziest hobby. I feel like people typically don't associate being cozy with spring and summer, but I think that that is like one of the peak times for cozy. Not only are you getting outside, but it's a great hobby to just like really make you slow down and be where your feet are, if that makes sense. I think growing a flower garden specifically is like the best #1 way to romanticize your life. Same with herbs actually, because if you're cooking in the kitchen and you're like, oh, I need time for this recipe, let me go out to my garden and snip some thyme. It's just like the best feeling. Some beginning flowers that I would recommend to start with are like cosmos, zinnias, dahlias. Those are all pretty easy. I also do a lot of berries, which I then use to make jam. I could go on about this literally forever. So if you want a part 2 with more ideas, please let me know, but I've been chatting at you for a half an hour. So I'm gonna leave it there. If you wanna see more cozy hobby content, cozy hobby vlogs, I would love if you click that subscribe button down below so we can be friends. I love you guys all a lot, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!
I follow only golden